Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Daisy Mati, whenever you're ready, can start Mati. I'll share my screen.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to all of the devotees. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhavati Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtake. Reading today from Canto 3, Chapter 23, continuing with text 25. Her body was coated with a thick layer of dirt, and her breasts were discolored. She dove, however, into the lake, which contained the sacred waters of the Saraswati. Text 26. In a house inside the lake, she saw 1,000 girls, all in the prime of youth and fragrant like lotuses. Text 27. Seeing her, the damsels suddenly rose and said with folded hands, "We are your maidservants. Tell us what we can do for you." Text 28. The girls, being very respectful to Devahuti, brought her forth, and after bathing her with valuable oils and ointments, they gave her fine, new spotless cloth to cover her body. Text 29. Then they then decorated her with very excellent and valuable jewels, which shone brightly. Next, they offered her food containing all good qualities and a sweet inebriating drink called asavam. Text 30. Then in a mirror, she beheld her own reflection. Her body was completely freed from all dirt, and she was adorned with a garland. Dressed in unsullied robes and decorated with auspicious marks of tilak, she was served very respectfully by the maids. Text 31. Her entire body, including her head, was completely bathed, and she was decorated all over with ornaments. She wore a special necklace with a locket. There were bangles on her wrists and tingling anklets of gold about her ankles. Text 32. About her hips, she wore a girdle of gold set with numerous jewels, and she was further adorned with a precious pearl necklace and auspicious substances. Text 33. Her countenance shone with beautiful teeth and charming eyebrows. Her eyes, distinguished by lovely moist corners, defeated the beauty of lotus buds. Her face was surrounded by dark curling tresses. Text 34. When she thought of her great husband, the best of the sages, Kadama Muni, who was very dear to her, she, along with all the maidservants, at once appeared where he was. Text 35. She was amazed to find herself surrounded by 1,000 maids in the presence of her husband and to witness his yogic power. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much, Daisy Mati. Hare Krishna. So we'll discuss this section. I'll briefly offer the prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणी जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Okay, it's a wonderful section describing Devahuti and Kardamuni's Grihastha life in Krishna consciousness. So the background we heard just the context wise, we heard Kardamuni, Devahuti served with her wonderful qualities as a chaste wife, Kardamuni, for so many years. And then after that, Kardamuni was pleased with the service, and Devahuti ultimately requested him for a child. So I wanted to elaborate on this context a little bit so that we have the right perspective when we hear today's section, which is all about how Devahuti dressed herself nicely, decorated herself nicely, preparing herself nicely for the union with Kardamuni so that they have good children. Okay, so I wanted to preface that with the right context. Some of it is from the 11th verse of this chapter also, which has a wonderful purport by Sri Prabhupada. So basically, the overall context was Devahuti was asking to have children with Kardamani. That's the overall context. But why did she ask? Why did she has to ask like that? And I'm not going to the whole circumstance of details where Kadamuni was asking to give Bhagavad Prasada, but she instead asked for a child like that. But basically, it's described by both Sri Prabhupada in purports and also Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that it was inspired by the Supreme Lord himself. Also, that's one way he is described by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Why? He wants to appear as her son. Of course, we'll see as the chapter progresses that she gets daughters first and then son later on. But still, it is inspired by Supreme Lord. That's one thing we can take. Second thing is, they being Prajapati, Kadamuni being Prajapati, it was his service to create good praja, good children, good population in the universe. Why? We hear from Bhagavad Gita second chapter also. Only because of good children or good population, there will be peace and prosperity in the society. So, to maintain the universal affairs nicely, there is importance of having good children or good population in the world. And to have good children in the world, parents should be in good consciousness and good mental state. And then only they can produce good children because then they can attract a proper soul to enter and give birth to the proper soul. Yeah. Soul meaning give birth to soul means soul is eternal, we know, but giving the body to the soul in this life, in the material world. So basically, it is inspired by the Supreme Lord and it's also facilitating their service of having good praja. And all this preparation that they're doing is towards that purpose, to have good children. So it's a religious union in marriage. Religious sex life in marriage is approved by Krishna. He says, I am the religious sex life that is religious, like that he says in Bhagavad Gita also. So if you remember, in the beginning of this, around the beginning of this chapter, I think it's the 11th verse of this chapter, which is elaborate purport, she basically says, not only she says that I want to have good children with you, but she's also talks about two things, I mean, in preparation towards the good children. One is, she says, prepare myself, my body for that purpose, number one. Number two, give a suitable home for this purpose also. So these two things, prepare myself towards this purpose and suitable home for this purpose. And Prabhupada writes in that purport, 11th purport, few important things because they're relevant for this discussion. I'm going back to that purport. Basically, he says several wonderful points. One of them is that Vedic scriptures are so wonderful that they're not just giving us knowledge and wisdom for which we can practice and go back to spiritual world only, for the, which is the ultimate goal. That is one. But also they're giving what is required to facilitate our journey, our living in the middle world nicely also. That is one important point Prabhupada makes it. So, and then he follows up with that point that even for preparing to have good children requires sex life also in marriage. So towards that, there are instructions in the scriptures how to facilitate that properly. So he talks about in the purport, Prabhupada talks about Vedic scriptures have the other Vatsayana, Vishnu Chakravarti talks about other Vatsayana, who's written Kama Sutra, it seems. That's also part of Vedic literature. And that gives instructions how to prepare oneself for having the union in marriage to have good children also. And then in the section, Prabhupada emphasizes one more nice thing, which is all these things, what we're going to see will be external, meaning preparing the body with nice scents, bathing body nicely with oils, and uh, taking nice foods, taking nice drinks, like that we'll see section, right? All these are nice. But for what purpose? Prabhupada writes in that purpose. That's why we're emphasizing that now. He says that prepares oneself, especially in the case of wife here, when she's prepared like that, according to the details in the scriptures also, then it will attract the mind of the husband. So when the mind is attracted, the husband is in a right mental situation also at that time of the union. And because of that, that right mental situation is transferred to the wife, and then that results in a good children. Notice how scriptures are leading to a particular goal. And when you have good children, they can become nice devotees, then they can go back to Godhead again. So all these things, if you see in the proper context, then we understand the value, why they're being described, why is there relevance in the scripture for all these things like that. That's another thing that Prabhupada nicely describes in the purport. So basically, to get good children, she needs to be prepared. Her body needs to be prepared for attracting the mind of the husband, number one. In the same purport, Prabhupada explains the purpose of her asking a nice home. Because if it's a hermitage where they're staying, there's a nice home in the sattvic mode, in mode of goodness. For what? To cultivate spiritual life nicely, to practice Krishna consciousness nicely. But in order to have a union and in order to for that to erase some amount of passion is required for that purpose to have good children. So some amount of passion is required for that activity. For that, the surrounding environment need to invoke some amount of passion. So that's why she asked for a suitable home for this purpose. And that's why we heard in the previous section, Sri Krishna Prabhu described a whole section describing how there's a whole palace created, aerial mansion created with a whole bunch of luxuries, all to stimulate the passion for the purpose of union and then having good children again. Yeah. So there's a other thing she asked in that. Now we'll go through this section with the understanding why they're preparing her, why she's preparing her body like this, so that in order to have good children. With that understanding, proper understanding, we can look through the verses and then we can discuss a few more lessons for us practically in our life. I'll share my screen. Yeah, today we're starting. So last verse was where last few verses were Devahuti, even though such a big aerial mansion, nice aerial mansion was prepared, she was thinking, I'm dirty. I'm not in proper clothes also. I'm in such a weak condition. How can I enter this palace like that? She was thinking. And we heard how Kardamuni understood her mind of his wife. And then he reciprocated accordingly. He asked her, please go to Bindu Saravara, which is made of water of river Saraswati, and then take bath. So then you'll be suitable, prepared basically. And then she goes into the, now what we are seeing is continuation of that. After the instruction, she followed the instruction. That's where we are going now. So the 25th verse is saying, her body was covered with dust, and then but she, in order to follow, she followed her husband's instruction, and she went into the Bindu Sarovar, which is the sacred waters of Saraswati is described. And then let me open the purports also. So if there's any points in the purport also, I'll share it. Yeah, no purports here for many verses. Then when she entered, there was a house there inside the lake, and which had 1,000 young girls, it seems. And they're fragrant like lotuses. They're very beautiful, basically. And there's no purport. Obviously, they are all created by the yogi power of Kardamuni, which is again result of his devotion, not just yoga only. That's the point Prabhupada clarifies in later purports. So now, yeah, seeing Devahuti entering the water in the lake, the young damsels, they rose up and with folded hands, they're asking, "We are your maid servants. Please tell us what we can do for you. How can I serve you?" So this is a nice mood of waiting for orders from superior that we can see in a servant. Many times we always say, "Oh, I'm a part and parcel of Krishna, I'm servant of Krishna," but we don't delve into or contemplate what does it mean? What does the servant mean? One of the meanings of servant is we're ready to serve the master whatever he wants, like that, whatever he desires, whatever he likes, we try to do it to please him, like that, right? So that mood we can see here. What can we do for you? Like that. That means we're ready to do whatever in our capacity, like that. So we are also trying to cultivate the mood of service to serve Krishna in our capacity, whatever our capacity allows. We don't need to do something other person only can do. We can do whatever we can do. Yeah, that is the mood we can situate ourselves as servant. In the 20th verse, he's saying those girls, those young girls, are very respectful to Devahuti because she's their master. Yeah, and then they prepared her by bathing her with valuable oils and ointments, and they gave her fine, new, and spotless cloth to cover the body, it seems. Interestingly, this cloth comes couple of places. I was noticing. So, and the spotless also comes in, for example, in the 30th verse, unsullied robes. I looked up the dictionary. This also means without any, very, very clean, it seems like that. So, she's prepared nicely. Again, for what? So that way to prepare herself to have good children. Yeah. So that is what is being described at 20th verse. And there's no purport to this also. Then 29th verse, those young damsels, then decorated her with very excellent and valuable jewels, which were shining brightly, it seems. And they also offered food that contained good qualities, it seems. And also a sweet inebriating means intoxicating, it seems. I looked at the dictionary. Inebriating drink called asvam. But in the purport, Prabhupada says somebody may think intoxicating means it's a liquor. It's a alcoholic drink like that. But Prabhupada is clarifying, it's a Ayurvedic tonic, it seems, that helps to improve the metabolism, it seems. That's what they gave her. So, why is the food mentioned here and decoration with the ornaments mentioned here? These are all to attract the mind of the husband for the purpose of producing good children again. And certain kinds of foods are recommended for certain purposes. For example, as practicing devotees, we eat sattvic food that doesn't give rise to mode of passion or mode of ignorance, right? Because sattvic food is suitable for purpose of practicing Krishna consciousness for us. But in this particular circumstance, for this particular service, they need a mode of passion also in this particular circumstance. So relevant food was basically fed for her accordingly, based on the service that they need to do at that time. So now going to text 30. Then she was looking herself in the mirror, it seems, and her own reflection in the mirror. And her body was clean, completely clean now without any dirt like that. And they also decorated her with a garland, and she was dressed with nice clothes, robes, it's described, unsullied robes, that means clean robes, it seems, and decorated with auspicious marks of tilaka. And she was served very respectfully. Again, the word is used respectful. See, respectful here in 20th and again respectful. So that's the mood of servant to offer service in respect always. There's a mood we are also cultivating towards our superiors, whether spiritual master, other devotees, or Krishna himself in the form of a deity, like that. That with the mood of respect, they prepared her. Again, interestingly, Tilak is not just for devotion only. Tilak is Tilak is meant for us to remember ourselves that this body is meant for Krishna, number one, and to remind others that this body we are also belonging to Krishna, for others also to remember Krishna, like that. Yeah. So that's a nice indication. Of course, there's no detail and purport either by Prabhupada or Vishwanath Chakravarti, what kind of tilak, what is the purpose of tilak they use. Yeah. So then basically, she prepared herself for that service again. That is the indication. And text number 31, her entire body, including her head, the purport Prabhupada talks about Krita Sira Snanam. Sira means head, right? Snanam means bathing. So she took complete bath, including her head, it seems. That means including her hair also. And she was decorated all over with ornaments. And she wore a special necklace with a locket. And there were bangles on her wrists and tinkling anklets of gold about her ankles. All this again is preparing her body for the service that they need to do with Kardamani. She needs to do with Kardamani. And Prabhupada writes something about this portion, Srirasthanam. Interestingly, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comment says that some people don't take head bath, some ladies don't take head bath at all. So that's why it's being mentioned like that. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments makes. But Prabhupada elaborates it in the purport nicely for her, for our benefit. He says, ladies are uh, encouraged, or a daily prescription for them is to take bath not on the hair, because if you take bath on the hair will be wet many times every day, then it becomes they can give you diseases like that. Prabhupada writes in the purport. So it's not suitable for them to take head bath every day. But then on special occasions they take head bath. So this was such a special occasion for her. That's why she took a head bath like that. Prabhupada writes in the purport. Prabhupada explains two words also. Malasnana, that means taking bath without the hair. And then Sirasnana, that means full bath, including the head taking bath. So that's what Prabhupada explains in the purport also for us. So she took a full bath because of a special occasion. And then how she is decorated with different ornaments also again is mentioned. She has a girdle, that's like a belt of gold with jewels, it seems. She was adorned with precious pearl necklace. And Prabhupada writes in the purport, these are auspicious substances like saffron, kumkuma, sandalwood pulp like chandan, and the turmeric mixed with mustard seed oil. All these are auspicious substances that are used before taking bath is described. Again, for what purpose? All this is in preparation for the service she needs to do to produce good children with Kardama. Yeah. And then text 33, her countenance shone. Countenance means one of the, here in this context, it means face. Yeah. Countenance shone. It was shining. She was having a shining face with beautiful white teeth is described in purport by Prabhupada. And then charming eyebrows. And her eyes were very beautiful like lotus buds, it seems. Her face was surrounded by dark curling tresses. Tresses means hair, it seems. I was looking up dictionary. Basically, her face was surrounded by dark curling hair. So now, again, Prabhupada emphasizes in the purport that whenever somebody's teeth are very beautiful uh, and that made her face beautiful. That's why she's compared, her face is being compared to a lotus flower, Prabhupada writes. And then eyes, when the eyes are also compared to lotus petals when the face is attractive, Prabhupada writes. Like that. Which we normally know when descriptions of Supreme Lord comes. That's so lotus face and lotus petal like eyes we describe, right? Padmalochana, like that. So that's what is being described. Now, 34th verse. Then, after she was prepared by these damsels nicely for the service that she needs to do, then she remembered her husband. As soon as she remembered husband, what happened? The servants took her to Kardamani, it seems. She at once appeared where he was. So this is the 34th verse, right? Yeah. Prabhupada writes in the purport, this actually going at once, appearing before Kadamani, whatever she desired, is one of the mystic powers that comes from yoga, as he describes. Of course, in later purports, he describes this is not just yogi power, this yogi power as a devotee of Krishna he got. As a devotee of Supreme Lord, he got the such yogi powers. And now she also has that, he transferred that also to her. It appears from this purport, Prabhupada writing, that they can immediately execute anything they desire. That is the yogi power Prabhupada is referring to. Now, 35th verse, which is the last verse for today. She was amazed to find herself surrounded by 1,000 maids in the presence of her husband. That means she suddenly, when she thought, she suddenly appeared before her husband along with all the maid servants. And she understood, oh my God, this was possible because of the yogi power of my husband only, like that. So that is why she was amazed, it seems. That's what Prabhupada clarifies it for us. It is only due to her husband's yogi power. She was understood nothing was impossible for a yogi like Kardamani. So again, another point to remember, Kardamani had this much yogi power because of his devotion. Ashtanga yogis also have some yogi power, but devotees, along with the devotion, they also get yogi power that they use it only for services, but not beyond that. So that's why we see extraordinary devotees are very, very sharp, very, very understanding of our heart also, like that. So that's the yogi power that they get, and they utilize it for service only, like that. There are some lessons. So far today, we heard how Mother Devahuti entered the lake according to the instructions of her husband, entered the Bindu Saravara lake, and then she was prepared by 1,000 damsels who were again created by the yogi power of her husband, and she prepared her body nicely. They prepared her body nicely for make it suitable for the purpose of union with husband, so that they can have good children, which again result in good universal situation, like that. That's what we heard. So in different descriptions of how she got prepared, we heard. And then we also heard how she was amazed with the yogic power of her husband. So now, few lessons we can learn from this. I was contemplating. One other thing was, we already talked about how scriptures have wonderful instructions, not only for going back to Godhead, for doing our services nicely in the material life also. That is one thing we already heard. And we also heard towards a service, we can prepare ourselves nicely. And then we also heard how to see her desires for children properly in a proper right perspective. We saw how is impelled by Krishna for a particular service in a religious manner, like that. And then another thing we can learn is she uh, dress herself in a particular way, prepared herself in a particular way for this particular service of producing children. Now, what can we learn from our dressing perspective as a practice in devotees? Because producing children will do only occasionally, not all the time. So then what we can learn is we can serve appropriately that is suitable for our service. That is a principle. That means we dress ourselves neatly, very cleanly, we present ourselves very cleanly, and then um, and modestly. So that way it helps, it is suitable, our dressing is suitable for our practicing of Krishna consciousness and our protection from false ego that we may get. And also it's suitable for others to practice Krishna consciousness nicely without getting distracted. Yeah, that is the principle for our practice of Krishna consciousness and for others' practice of Krishna consciousness. I will elaborate briefly. So basically, how is our dressing suitable for our practice of Krishna consciousness? Because let us say I'm dressing very extravagantly and not modestly, showing off my body inappropriately. What will that bring? Then everybody will see. Some people will appreciate us also. Oh, wow, such a nice dress. You're looking so beautiful. All they may appreciate also. But if that appreciation we don't take it in a proper perspective, that means we think, oh, my body is attractive now. Now what is happening? We're degrading ourselves to body consciousness. Okay, I'm I'm beautiful. I need to care for my body more, so it's more presentable, so more nice to others, so that they'll appreciate me more. There's a danger to go in that direction. Of course, it doesn't mean we should dress ourselves in rags like that. Again, that is dressing in mode of ignorance. That is not encouraged in scriptures again. And the dressing is mode of passion is showing off our body like that. So we need to be not be dressing in mode of ignorance, not be dressing in mode of passion, but dress in mode of goodness. So dressing in mode of goodness means we keep ourselves very neat, clean, including our dresses, including our whatever dress we wear, and then not show off the body unnecessarily. Yeah, that is the idea of a mode of goodness dressing. And why is that important? Again, so that way I'm not in material consciousness promoting my false ego and bodily consumption, but I'm trying to practice devotional life in spiritual consciousness. So it should help me to remember that I'm a spirit soul and servant of Krishna. Right? So like that, what is makes suitable for that, we dress accordingly. That is for ourselves. And then why is not suitable for others? Because let us say somebody dresses in mode of ignorance, then that means dirty clothes and then torn clothes, for example, then others is not nice to see even. Then is not promoting calmness and peacefulness for others also. So that means is not suitable atmosphere for them to cultivate devotion service. Number one. Number two, let us say we dress in mode of passion, where we show off our body, and then uh, that that unnecessarily attracts attention towards us instead of Supreme Lord, instead of their devotion service that they're engaged in with very attentively. Then what happens? That means we're distracting somebody from their services. Yeah, and as we know, as practicing devotees, that we support each other in doing our service nicely. If something doesn't help others do their service nicely, we be very careful to not distract their service, not to disturb their service, not to take away them from their service like that, as much as possible. Sometimes we have to, because of certain important service we need to take, we need to request them, can you please not do that service today and do this service for me like that. Sometimes it's very important. But general principle is we enable our service in Krishna consciousness, we enable other service in Krishna consciousness. That is the principle. When we remember that, then we dress ourselves nicely when we're participating in a community of practicing devotees, so that we support each other in services like that. That's the other principle, other lesson we can learn here, how we can practice Krishna consciousness and dressing appropriately for the particular service we are in. Now, in other purports of Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada also talks about how a wife needs to dress nicely when a husband comes home, so that he feels peaceful, pleasant. It is pleasant atmosphere at home, like that Prabhupada talks about in some other purports also. So that's also important. Neatly and cleanly doesn't equal the mode of passionate dressing. Yeah, that we can remember. In fact, Prabhupada commented on Yamuna Devi. It's in the Yamuna Devi book, if I remember correctly. Yamuna Devi's life story is written nicely. She's a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, for those who may not know. So, Prabhupada used to say, wow, Yamuna has nice clothes. She dresses nicely. The fact of the matter was, she had only two sarees at that time, it seems. But she used to wash them nicely and iron them nicely and wear nicely every day. So that's why she's keeping neat and clean. And Prabhupada appreciated that also. And Prabhupada appreciated her tilak also is described in the book also, like that. So that's another neat and clean doesn't need to equal to mode of passion and dressing. That's another lesson we can learn. So then another aspect is the remember in the last verse we read today, she was amazed by the yogic powers of her husband. Similarly, we might see so many saintly personalities who achieved, who did practice spirituality, who got some great yogic powers to create something, whatever they desire in their hand, and then show us. And then they can even understand what is there in their mind. And like that, they exhibit a lot of yogi powers. So just because they exhibit yogi powers, you should not think, oh yes, see, he can do whatever he wants. He can get whatever he wants. That means he's God. That's not the right conclusion we should get at. Actually, the later purports also this point will come more clearly. But we should be careful to understand these are also material opulences only that somebody can get with yogic practice. When we understand that difference, then we don't consider just because somebody is having some yogic powers, we don't say, oh, see, this God like that. So we're careful also in that aspect. And if you notice later on in the Kardamuni pastime also, Kardamuni didn't think himself God. Oh, look, I created the aerial mansion. Look, I created 1,000 damsels to serve my wife. Now I became God. He didn't think like that because he understands he's in the right position. By Krishna's mercy, I got this ability. I got this yogic powers to utilize in my service. I'll utilize for that. Not to show off, not to disguise myself as God like that. So that's another, of course. So this actually gives us another important lesson for us. Sometimes in our life, even though we are practicing devotees, we want everything as per Krishna's terms, like that we say, right? But sometimes we think everything should happen in my life exactly as I want. My wife should talk to me exactly I want. My wife should do exactly I want. My husband should do exactly as I want. My children should do exactly as I want. So that's also aspiration for some yogic power. Of course, not bad to desire for our family to grow in Krishna consciousness, to stay in devotion. But to desire the control exactly as I want is also desire for some kind of yogic power only. We should be cautious about that subtle desires like that also. Yeah. Always remember that Krishna is in control and everybody has their free will. We can only influence by our example, by showing with our example, and by giving instruction as much as we can, as much as the other person wants to take it. That much we can give, not more than that. Yeah. And then, yeah, that's another magic. So when we see such magic, we should not be carried away and think that they're God like that. That's another lesson we can learn. So these are few important things we can see from this section. A beautiful section from Srimad Bhagavatam and practice of Grihastha by Kardamuni and Devahuti. We'll pause there. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kupasindubhyev cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Thank you so much, devotees, for your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for the class.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.